Elon Musk hires a homeless man for Tesla and tests him by leaving his wallet on the table. When he checked the cameras, Elon couldn't believe what he saw. The Texas sun was barely peeking over the horizon when Elon Musk's Tesla Model S pulled into the Giga Texas parking lot. He preferred these early morning arrivals, before the parade of executives, the endless meetings, and the constant barrage of people vying for his attention began. "Mr. Musk," the security guard nodded as Elon approached the entrance. "Beautiful morning, sir." "Dave, how many times do I have to tell you? Just call me Elon." He paused, noticing the guard's troubled expression. "Something wrong?" Dave shifted uncomfortably. "That homeless man is back again. 3rd week straight. We've been monitoring him, but he doesn't cause any trouble, just sits there reading on his phone." Elon followed Dave's gaze to the figure huddled in the doorway of the adjacent coffee shop. He'd noticed him before, it was hard not to. But unlike the usual transients who drifted through the area, this one was different. No sign asking for money, no shopping cart full of belongings. Just a weathered backpack and that beat-up phone he was always staring at. "Has he bothered anyone?" Elon asked. "No, sir, Elon. Actually, he keeps the area clean. Even helped one of our employees jumpstart their car yesterday. But protocol says..." "Protocol says a lot of things, Dave. Let him be for now." Inside his office, Elon found himself distracted. The morning's emails about production quotas and SpaceX updates couldn't hold his attention. His mind kept drifting to the man outside. "Sarah," he called to his assistant, "get me the security footage of our mystery guest out front, past 3 weeks." "The homeless man?" Sarah appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand. "Actually, I have something interesting about him. Yesterday, he was using our guest Wi-Fi, and our IT team flagged his browsing history." Elon raised an eyebrow. "Porn, illegal downloads, engineering journals, technical papers about EV battery technology, some of them pretty advanced stuff." That got his attention. "Show me." The next hour disappeared as Elon reviewed footage and browsing logs. The man arrived each morning at precisely 6:15 a.m., just before the coffee shop opened. He'd help the barista stack her delivery, earning a free coffee. Then he'd settle in with his phone, reading until the morning rush died down. At exactly 10 a.m., he'd pack up and disappear. Mr. Musk, his next appointment was waiting, but Elon waved them off. "Cancel everything until noon," he told Sarah, "and get me a coffee, 2 coffees actually." Outside, the morning had warmed considerably. The man didn't look up as Elon approached, too engrossed in whatever he was reading. "Battery thermal management systems," Elon said, reading over his shoulder. Heavy reading for a Wednesday morning. The man startled, nearly dropping his phone. His eyes widened with recognition, but he didn't display the usual fawning excitement Elon had come to expect. "Here," Elon held out the extra coffee. "Looks like yours is empty." "Thank you." The man's voice was quiet but clear, his hand surprisingly steady as he accepted the cup. Up close, Elon could see he was younger than he'd appeared from a distance, maybe mid-40s, though life had clearly been rough recently. "I'm Elon." A slight smile. "I know who you are, Mr. Musk, everyone does." "And you are?" "Mike. Mike Wilson." "Well, Mike Wilson, want to tell me why you're reading about battery thermal management systems at 8 a.m. outside my factory?" Mike hesitated, looking down at his phone. "Old habits, I guess. I used to be an engineer, specialized in thermal systems for a defense contractor. These days, well, keeping up with the field is about all I can do." "Used to be?" Elon settled onto the concrete beside him, ignoring Sarah's horrified expression as she watched from the doorway. "Life happens. Wife got sick. Cancer. Insurance covered some but experimental treatments." Mike shrugged. "You made choices. Empty your retirement. Sell the house, max the credit cards. Keep hoping the next treatment will work. Then one day, she's gone anyway, and you're left with nothing but bills and memories." The words came out matter-of-fact. Without self-pity, Elon found himself studying Mike's hands, Clean, nails trimmed. The phone might be cracked, but it was carefully maintained. Even his worn clothes were neatly mended. "Tell me something about thermal management systems that would surprise me," Elon challenged. Mike's eyes lit up. For the next 20 minutes, he detailed an innovative approach to battery cooling he'd been theorizing, drawing diagrams in the dust with his finger. His technical knowledge was impressive, but more than that, his passion was genuine. Mr. Musk, a harried-looking executive, was hurrying toward them. The board meeting started 10 minutes ago. Elon stood, brushing off his pants. "What would you do with a chance?" he asked Mike abruptly. "Excuse me? If someone gave you a shot, a real opportunity, what would you do with it?" Mike stood as well, his height matching Elon's. For a long moment he was quiet, considering. "I'd work harder than I've ever worked in my life." He finally said, "Not to prove anything to anyone else, but because I know what it's like to lose everything, and I know second chances don't come around often." "Mr. Musk, please." The board. "Shut up, Kevin," Elon snapped. He turned back to Mike. "Be here tomorrow, 8 a.m. sharp, we'll talk more." As he walked away, Elon's mind was already racing. It was crazy. The board would hate it. HR would have a fit. But something in his gut told him this was right. "Sarah," he called as he passed her. "Get me everything you can on Michael Wilson, former defense industry engineer, and find out what it takes to reinstate a suspended engineering license in Texas." "Sir?" Sarah hurried after him. "Are you sure about this? He's homeless, yeah. He's also the first person I've met in months who didn't try to bullshit me." Elon paused at the boardroom door. "Oh, and Sarah? Have facilities prepare the small conference room for tomorrow, and maybe find some fresh clothes in my size. Close enough, anyway." "Clothes, but..." "Trust me," Elon grinned. "And order me a new wallet. I'm going to need it for a little test." The boardroom door opened, and Elon stepped in to face the irritated faces of his directors, but his mind was already on tomorrow. Sometimes the craziest ideas turned out to be the best ones. And if there was one thing Elon Musk trusted, it was his gut. "Sorry I'm late," he announced to the room. "I was just having a fascinating discussion about thermal management systems. Now, who wants to talk about revolutionizing our hiring practices?" The board members exchanged uncomfortable glances. Richard Chen, the longest-serving director, cleared his throat. "Elon, we actually need to discuss the Q3 production targets." "Boring." Elon cut him off, pulling up a chair. "We'll hit the targets. What's more interesting is the untapped talent pool we're ignoring." "Untapped talent pool?" Patricia Morrison, head of HR, looked nervous. She'd learned that tone in Elon's voice usually meant something outrageous was coming. "Did you know," Elon leaned forward, "that there are thousands of engineers, scientists, and brilliant minds who've fallen through the cracks? People who had careers, expertise, but got knocked down by circumstances?" "Mr. Musk," Patricia interjected, "if this is about the homeless man outside, how did you know about him already?" Elon's eyes narrowed. "Sir, 3 department heads have emailed me about you sitting on the sidewalk with him this morning. There are concerns." Elon laughed, but there was an edge to it. "Concerns? Of course there are. Heaven forbid the CEO talk to someone who doesn't wear a $1,000 suit." He stood up and walked to the window. From here, he could just make out Mike's figure still sitting by the coffee shop. As he watched, a Tesla employee dropped something, and Mike immediately got up to help them pick it up. "Tell me something." Elon turned back to the room. "How many of our recent hires have actually innovated anything? Not implemented, not managed, but actually created something new?" Silence. "That man out there just spent 20 minutes explaining a battery cooling system that could increase our efficiency by at least 15%. He did it drawing in the dirt with his finger, citing current research he read on a broken phone he keeps charged via free Wi-Fi." "Even if that's true," Richard said carefully, "there are liability issues, insurance complications, PR considerations." "PR considerations?" Elon's voice rose. You mean like how it would look if people found out a homeless man solved problems our highly paid engineers couldn't? The room grew very quiet. Sarah, Elon called, knowing his assistant would be hovering nearby. She appeared instantly. Show them the browsing history. As Sarah distributed tablets showing Mike's research activity, Elon continued. Look at the timestamp patterns. He spends 18 hours a day reading technical papers, following our patents, studying our competitors' innovations. While our employees clock out at 5 p.m., this guy is teaching himself quantum computing at midnight using public library Wi-Fi. Patricia studied the data, her expression softening. His knowledge base is impressive, but Elon, there are procedures. We can't just... Actually, we can. As of right now, I'm creating a new initiative, the Second Chance Program, and I'm going to prove it works with our friend out there. The board would need to approve any new hiring program, Richard pointed out. Elon smiled. It wasn't entirely a friendly expression. The board approved my discretionary hiring authority up to 20 positions per quarter. I'm using one of those slots. At least let us do a background check, Patricia pleaded. Get references, verify his credentials. Already happening, Elon nodded at Sarah. But first, I'm going to do my own kind of background check, tomorrow morning. What kind of check? Richard asked warily. Elon's grin widened. The kind that tells you everything you need to know about a person's character in 5 minutes. Now, about those production targets. The meeting continued, but Elon's mind kept drifting to tomorrow. He'd tested people before, but something felt different this time. Maybe because he saw something of himself in Mike, that drive to learn, to create, to solve problems regardless of circumstances. After the meeting, he pulled Sarah aside. What did you find? Michael Wilson, 44, bachelor's and master's in mechanical engineering from Georgia Tech, worked for Raytheon for 12 years, stellar performance reviews. Then his wife got sick. Everything he told you checks out. The medical bills, the bankruptcy, all of it. The license? Suspended 2 years ago for non-payment of renewal fees. Clean record otherwise. It would take about $2,000 in fees and continuing education credits to reinstate. Elon nodded slowly. Have legal draw up a conditional employment contract, 3-month trial basis, and get that conference room ready. I want cameras recording from every angle tomorrow. You really think this wallet test will tell you anything? A man who's lost everything will show you exactly who he is when given a chance to take something from someone else. Elon started toward his office, then paused. Oh, and Sarah? Get him access to our internal research database tonight. Let's see what he does with it. As evening fell, Elon watched from his office as Mike packed up his few belongings. The man's movements were precise, methodical, nothing wasted, nothing left to chance. Through the security feed, Elon could see him reading something intently on his phone. A notification popped up on Elon's screen. Guest Wi-Fi user 23 accessing. Tesla patent, 224,789. Advanced thermal management systems in EV applications. Elon smiled. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. As Mike signed the contract, Elon noticed Sarah hovering in the doorway, giving him a thumbs up. The HR team would be having fits, the board would complain, and Twitter would probably explode when this eventually got out, but his gut told him this was right. One more thing, Elon said as Mike finished signing, that thermal management system you described earlier. Think you could have a detailed proposal ready by next week? Mike's eyes lit up. I could have it ready by tomorrow. Good, because if it works like you say it will, we're going to revolutionize our entire cooling system. Elon stood, extending his hand. Welcome to Tesla, Mike. Try not to prove me wrong. Mike shook his hand firmly. I won't, but Mr. Musk. Elon, just know that no matter what happens next, you've already changed my life, just by seeing me as more than. He gestured at his worn clothes. You did that yourself. Elon corrected. I just happened to be paying attention. He picked up his wallet, smiling. Though next time, maybe don't move other people's things without asking. Mike actually laughed. Next time, maybe don't leave valuable things lying around as a test. Fair enough. Elon headed for the door, then paused. The shelter you're staying at, which one is it? St. Michael's, over on 5th. Why? No reason. But Elon was already texting Sarah. Find out how many other people at that shelter have technical backgrounds, and double the funding for the Second Chance program. Sometimes the best innovations weren't about technology at all. The rest of the day passed in a whirlwind. Sarah took Mike to HR to process paperwork, while Elon dealt with the aftermath of his decision. By late afternoon, Mike had been issued temporary credentials, basic company equipment, and access to the engineering databases. Your apartment will be ready tomorrow, Sarah informed Mike, handing him a temporary keycard. For tonight, Mr. Musk has arranged a hotel room, Elon interrupted, entering the room. The Four Seasons downtown, cars waiting outside. Mike shook his head. I appreciate it, but that's too much. The shelter. Here's no place for my new thermal systems engineer to prepare for tomorrow. Elon's tone made it clear this wasn't up for debate. Consider it company business. I want you fresh and focused tomorrow. As they walked to the lobby, employees tried not to stare, and failed. Mike seemed to shrink slightly under their gazes, his shoulders tensing. Ignore them, Elon advised quietly. In a month, they'll be coming to you for advice. At the entrance, a sleek Tesla Model S waited. The driver opened the door, but before Mike could get in, Elon held him back. One last thing, he said, pulling out his phone. The shelter, St. Michael's. How many people there would you say have technical backgrounds? Mike considered this. There's a former software developer who lost everything in the tech crash, a mechanical engineer who got hurt on the job, got hooked on pain meds, lost his license. A woman who was some kind of research scientist before her mental health issues. Maybe 6 or 7 total. Why? Elon typed something into his phone. No reason. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be busy. As the car pulled away, Sarah appeared at his side. Should I start background checks on the people he mentioned? All of them. And contact St. Michael's. I want to know about every resident with any kind of technical training. He turned to head back inside, then paused. And Sarah? Send a few catering trucks to the shelter tonight. Good food, nothing fancy, but enough for everyone. Anything else? Elon smiled, looking at the email already popping up on his phone. Mike accessing the engineering databases from his newly issued laptop. Yeah, I think we're going to need a bigger program budget. Inside the Model S, Mike sat in stunned silence, watching the city pass by. The driver, sensing his mood, kept quiet. Mike pulled out his phone, his old cracked one, not the shiny new company device, and opened his photo gallery. He found the picture he was looking for. Him and his wife Sandra at his last company Christmas party, before everything fell apart. She was beaming at the camera, her face still full and healthy, no sign of the cancer that would soon consume her. I wish you could see this, honey, he whispered. I think things are finally going to be okay. His new phone pinged, an email from Elon. Forgot to mention, that thermal management solution you proposed. Presented to the engineering team tomorrow at 9 a.m. No pressure. P.S. Check the hotel room desk when you arrive. At the Four Seasons, Mike found a package waiting in his room. Inside was a new suit, his exact size, with a note. You're not just an engineer anymore. You're the face of the Second Chance program. Dress accordingly. Looking forward to your presentation. Elon. Mike ran his hand over the suit's fine material, then looked at his reflection in the room's full-length mirror. The contrast between his worn clothes and this luxury suite was jarring. But in his eyes, there was something new, hope. He set up his laptop, opened the engineering software, and got to work. He had a presentation to prepare, and he was determined to prove Elon's faith in him wasn't misplaced. In his office across town, Elon was still working too. On his screen was a new document titled Second Chance Program, Phase 2. Below it, a growing list of shelters, community centers, and rehabilitation facilities across Austin. Sometimes he realized, the biggest technical innovations started by solving human problems first. "Sarah," he called out, "get me the mayor's office. I think it's time we talked about expanding our hiring practices citywide." As midnight approached, two men in different parts of Austin worked on their respective projects, both knowing that tomorrow would mark the beginning of something much bigger than either of them had planned. The wallet test had been just the beginning. The real test of character, of determination, of second chances was still to come. The next morning arrived with a mix of excitement and tension in the Tesla headquarters. Elon had barely slept, his mind racing with possibilities and potential pitfalls. He arrived at 7 a.m., earlier than usual, to ensure everything was in place. "Morning, boss." Sarah greeted him, dark circles under her eyes suggesting she'd had a late night too. "You might want to see this." She handed him a tablet showing the overnight security logs. Mike had stayed at the public library until closing, then found a spot in a nearby shelter. But what caught Elon's attention was the digital trail. Mike had spent 6 straight hours reading through Tesla's public technical documentation. He accessed every thermal management patent we've published in the last 5 years, Sarah pointed out. Made notes too, using a free cloud document service. "Want to see them?" Elon scrolled through pages of detailed technical analysis, complete with suggestions for improvements and potential efficiency gains. The work was thorough, professional, and potentially valuable. "Where is he now?" Elon asked. "Already outside. Helped Maria at the coffee shop with deliveries again. He's been reading the latest Battery Quarterly Journal for the past hour." Elon checked his watch. 7:45 a.m. "Is everything ready in the conference room?" "Cameras are set up. New wallet is on the table, complete with a few hundred in cash and some credit cards in your name. Security team is on standby." Sarah hesitated. "Are you sure about this?" "No," Elon admitted, "but that's what makes it interesting." The security team was waiting for him, looking uncomfortable in their suits. Dave, the guard from yesterday, stepped forward. "Mr. Musk, we've done background sweeps of the area. No accomplices or suspicious activity. But sir, are you sure you want to bring him inside? We could set up a table out." "He's not a circus animal," Elon cut him off sharply. "He's a potential employee who's going to be treated with respect. Clear?" "Yes, sir." Dave stepped back, properly chastised. At precisely 8 a.m., Elon walked outside. Mike was already standing, his backpack neatly packed, clothes as presentable as he could make them. "Right on time," Elon noted. "Actually, I've been ready since 7:30, Mike admitted. "Didn't want to risk being late." As they walked inside, Elon noticed how Mike took everything in with quick, intelligent glances. Not gawking like a tourist, but studying the layout, the security measures, the workflow of people moving through the building. "Nice setup," Mike commented as they passed the engineering labs. "Though your thermal testing chamber could use some adjustments. The airflow pattern isn't optimal for uniform temperature distribution." Elon stopped short. "How could you possibly know that?" "The condensation pattern on the observation window shows uneven temperature distribution. Simple fix though, just need to adjust the baffle angles and add some flow straighteners." Before Elon could respond, Patricia from HR hurried up, tablet in hand. "Mr. Musk, I have the paperwork you requested, but there are some issues we need to discuss." Later, Elon waved her off. "Mike, hungry? Let's get some breakfast sent up." In the conference room, Mike sat somewhat stiffly, clearly aware of the security cameras and the guards trying to look inconspicuous outside. A young assistant brought in coffee and breakfast tacos. "So," Elon began, "tell me about this flow straightener idea." For the next 2 hours, they talked engineering. Mike's knowledge wasn't just theoretical. He had practical experience solving complex thermal problems, and his suggestions for Tesla's systems were innovative yet grounded in reality. "The thing is," Mike explained, sketching on a napkin, "most people approach battery cooling from the cell level up, but if you look at it from a systemic perspective, Mr. Musk," Sarah interrupted apologetically. "The board meeting starts in 5 minutes." Elon nodded, standing. "Mike, I need to step out for a bit. Make yourself comfortable. Sarah will get you anything you need." As he placed his wallet on the table, a casual movement that had been rehearsed a dozen times, he caught a flicker of something in Mike's eyes. Recognition, understanding? But the man's face remained neutral. Outside the conference room, Patricia was waiting with Richard and several other executives. "This is highly irregular," Richard began. "We've been watching the interview." "Good ideas, right?" Elon grinned. "That's not the point. There are procedures, protocols." "The wallet's on the table," Elon interrupted. "Let's see what kind of man we're really dealing with." In the security room, they watched the monitors. Mike sat still for several long minutes, occasionally sipping his coffee. Then he reached for the wallet. Patricia gasped. Richard made a disapproving noise. But Mike only moved the wallet further from the edge of the table, then pulled out his phone. "What's he doing?" Elon leaned forward. "Sending an email," Sarah reported, checking her tablet. "To HR." The message appeared on her screen. "To whom it may concern. I appreciate the opportunity Mr. Musk has extended, but before any decisions are made, I feel compelled to disclose my full situation. My engineering license was suspended due to inability to pay renewal fees during my period of homelessness. Additionally, while my bankruptcy was primarily due to medical bills, it may affect any security clearances required. I would rather be upfront about these issues now than risk wasting anyone's time or resources. Regardless of the outcome, thank you for the consideration. Respectfully, Michael Wilson." The room was silent for a long moment. "Well," Richard finally said, "that was unexpected." "Was it?" Elon smiled. The man spent his last dollars paying for his wife's treatment, instead of maintaining his professional credentials. That tells you everything about his character right there. "Still," Patricia interjected, "the license issue is a problem. State regulations. So we help him reinstate it, back pay the fees, set up the continuing education credits." Elon turned to Sarah. "Make it happen." "What about housing?" Sarah asked. "He can't work here and live in a shelter." "Set him up in a corporate apartment for the first month. After that, his salary should cover rent." Elon checked his watch. "I think we've tested him long enough." Back in the conference room, Mike was sitting exactly where they'd left him, the wallet untouched except for being moved to a safer position. "So," Elon said, closing the door behind him, "want to tell me about the email you just sent?" Mike met his gaze steadily. "You already know about it, or you wouldn't be asking, and you left the wallet as a test." "What makes you say that?" "Because that's what you do. You test people, push them, see what they're really made of." Mike smiled slightly. "Also, you don't seem like the kind of person who accidentally leaves things lying around." Elon laughed, a genuine, surprised laugh. "You know, most people would have just left the wallet alone and said nothing about their license." "Most people haven't lost everything," Mike said quietly. "When you have nothing left but your integrity, you guard it pretty carefully." "Well then," Elon sat down, pulling out a folder. "Let's talk about getting you back on your feet, starting with this." He slid a contract across the table. Mike read it carefully, his hands trembling slightly. 3-month trial period. Elon explained. "Full benefits start immediately. We'll handle the license reinstatement, corporate housing for the first month. After that, it's all on you." Mike looked up, his eyes suspiciously bright. "Why?" "Why what?" "Why take a chance on me? There are 1,000 qualified engineers out there, ones without complications." Elon leaned back, considering his answer carefully. "You know what the difference is between a good engineer and a great one? A good engineer solves problems. A great engineer sees problems nobody else even noticed. This morning, you walked past our testing lab once and spotted an inefficiency our team hasn't fixed in 2 years. He paused, then continued. "But more than that, you remind me of myself in a way. Everyone loves to talk about success stories, but they forget the hard parts." The sleeping in the office because you can't afford an apartment, the showering at the YMCA, the times you're one bad break away from losing everything. Mike nodded slowly, understanding in his eyes. So here's the real test, Elon concluded. Not the wallet, this contract, what you do with this chance, because I'm not just offering you a job, I'm betting on you. The question is, are you ready to bet on yourself? Mike picked up the pen, his hand steady now. Where do I sign? Elon sat alone in his office, the lights of Austin twinkling through the floor-to-ceiling windows. It was well past midnight, but sleep wasn't coming. His mind kept circling back to the wallet test and its unexpected outcome. Sir? Sarah's voice came through the intercom. Security finished compiling all the footage angles. Bring it in. Sarah entered, tablet in hand. Dark circles under her eyes suggested she'd been as sleepless as her boss. You know, most CEOs would have gone home by now. Most CEOs didn't just hire a homeless man based on a gut feeling. Elon took the tablet. Show me everything. The security footage was crystal clear, showing multiple angles of the conference room. They watched Mike's initial reaction when Elon left, a slight straightening of his posture, a careful glance at the cameras he'd obviously noticed. Go back, Elon said suddenly. There, zoom in on his eyes. In that moment, just after Elon had placed the wallet, they could see the flash of recognition in Mike's expression. He'd known it was a test. Play it through, Elon instructed. They watched as Mike sat perfectly still for several minutes, occasionally sipping his coffee. Then came the moment when he reached for the wallet. Pause it. Elon leaned forward. Look at his hands. They're not shaking. No hesitation. Because he wasn't stealing it, Sarah noted. He was protecting it. The footage continued. Mike moved the wallet to a safer position, then pulled out his phone. The email to HR played out exactly as they'd seen it earlier, but now they could see his face as he typed determination mixed with resignation, as if he expected his honesty to cost him everything. Sir, a security guard appeared at the door. You asked for the overnight analysis. Come in, Dave. Elon took the offered folder. What did you find? Dave shifted uncomfortably. We ran every test we could think of. Checked the wallet for fingerprints, monitored all network activity from his phone, even had behavioral analysts review the footage. And nothing. No red flags. He didn't even open the wallet, just moved it to a safer spot. The only thing he touched was his phone, sending that email. Dave hesitated. Sir, in 20 years of security work, I've never seen anything like it. Elon smiled. Because you're used to looking for what people do wrong. You're not trained to spot pure integrity. There's something else, Sarah interjected, pulling up another file on her tablet. Look what he was reading on his phone right before he sent that email. The screen showed Mike's browser history, articles about Tesla's corporate culture, news about recent hires, and documentation about engineering positions. He'd been researching the company, preparing himself. He wasn't just being honest, Elon realized. He was being thorough, professional. There's more. Sarah continued. After you left him in the hotel, he spent 6 hours working on that thermal management presentation. The cleaning staff reported he was still at it when they came by at 3 a.m. Elon leaned back, processing this information. Dave, what's your professional opinion, as head of security? The guard straightened. Sir, if you're asking if I think he's a risk, no. In fact, based on his behavior patterns and background check, I trust him more than half our current employees. Because desperate people who choose honesty over opportunity. That's rare. Really rare. Elon stood, walking to the window. The first hints of dawn were creeping over the horizon. Sarah, what time is his presentation? 9 a.m. Main engineering conference room. Most of the senior technical team will be there. Good. Make sure all the board members attend too, and get legal on the phone. I want the permanent contract ready by the end of the day. Sarah's eyes widened. Sir, the trial period was never really about his technical skills, was it? Elon turned back to them. We needed to know who he was. Now we do. The board won't like rushing this, Sarah warned. The board can either get on board or get out of the way. Elon's tone was firm. Oh, and one more thing, I want you to compile a report. Every shelter, halfway house, and rehabilitation center in Texas. Focus on residents with technical backgrounds. You're really going to expand the program? Sarah, do you know what the difference is between a good CEO and a great one? Elon smiled. A good CEO builds products, a great one builds people. Just then, his phone buzzed. A message from the engineering team's group chat. Mike had arrived early, was already setting up for his presentation. Dave, Elon turned to the security guard. Remember how you said you'd never seen anything like this in 20 years? Yes, sir. Get ready to see a lot more, because if this works the way I think it will, we're about to change a lot more lives than just Mike's. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Board members arrived, trying to hide their skepticism behind polite smiles. Engineering teams filed in, curious about this unconventional new hire they'd heard whispers about. At exactly 9 a.m., Mike stood before them in his new suit. If he was nervous, he didn't show it. His presentation was flawless, technically brilliant, professionally delivered, and innovative in ways that had the senior engineers exchanging excited glances. Elon watched from the back of the room, his smile growing as he saw the skepticism on the board members' faces gradually transform into interest, then genuine enthusiasm. The modified thermal management system could increase efficiency by 18%, Mike concluded, with minimal retooling of existing production lines. The room burst into applause, genuine, not polite. Mike looked startled, as if he hadn't expected this response. Richard Chen, the board member who'd been most skeptical, was the first to speak. Mr. Wilson, these calculations, they're remarkable. How long did it take you to develop this concept? About 3 weeks, Mike answered. I've been studying Tesla's public patents while. He paused, then continued honestly, while I was staying at the shelter. The library's Wi-Fi was pretty good. The room grew quiet at this reminder of his recent circumstances. But Mike stood tall, refusing to be embarrassed by his past. Elon chose this moment to step forward. I think we've seen enough. Sarah, the contract. She handed him a folder. Elon opened it on the conference table. But sir, Patricia from HR interjected, the trial period was a test. Elon looked around the room. One that started the moment he walked into this building. We've all seen the footage, we've all read the reports. And now we've seen what he can do. He turned to Mike. Unless you have any objections, I'm offering you a permanent position. Full benefits, competitive salary, and, he paused for effect, leadership of our new thermal systems innovation team. Mike stared at the contract, his professional composure cracking slightly. Are you sure? Actually, I've never been more sure of a hiring decision. Elon gestured to the presentation screen. You didn't just solve a technical problem. You showed us what's possible when we look past circumstances to see potential. As Mike signed the contract, Elon addressed the room. Let this be a lesson to all of us. Excellence doesn't always wear a suit, at least, not at first. Sometimes it's reading technical papers on a broken phone outside a coffee shop. The room erupted in applause again. Engineers crowded around Mike, eager to discuss his ideas. Board members huddled in corners, already discussing implications and opportunities. Sarah appeared at Elon's side. Sir, the mayor's office called back. They want to meet about the Second Chance program. Schedule it. Elon nodded. And Sarah, get me the footage from today's presentation. I want to compare it with yesterday's security tapes. Looking for something specific? Elon watched as Mike confidently answered complex technical questions, his earlier uncertainty gone. Just confirming something I already know. Later that evening, Elon sat reviewing both sets of footage side by side. In one, a homeless man carefully moved a wallet to safety and wrote an email risking his opportunity for the sake of honesty. In the other, that same man commanded a room full of technical experts with confidence and brilliance. The wallet test had revealed more than just honesty. It had revealed character, and character, Elon knew, was something no amount of money could buy. His phone buzzed. Another message from Mike. "Thank you for seeing what others didn't. I won't let you down." Elon smiled, typing back, "You already proved that with a wallet and an email. The engineering was just a bonus." As the day wound down, the Tesla headquarters was buzzing with excitement. News of Mike's presentation and instant promotion had spread through the building like wildfire. More importantly, whispers of the Second Chance program were beginning to circulate. In the engineering lab, Mike was already at work, surrounded by a team of eager colleagues. The initial awkwardness had melted away in the face of his obvious expertise. Mr. Wilson, a young engineer named Alex, approached him. "Your calculations on the thermal distribution model, they're revolutionary." Mike looked up from his workstation. "Just Mike, please. And they're not revolutionary, just practical. When you've had to solve problems with limited resources, you learn to think differently." Speaking of which, Elon's voice came from the doorway. "I need to borrow our new thermal systems lead for a moment." In Elon's office, Mike found himself facing not just his new boss but also Mayor Rodriguez of Austin. "Mr. Wilson," the mayor extended his hand, "I've been hearing remarkable things about you." "Please sit," Elon gestured. "We need to talk about expanding our horizons." The mayor leaned forward. "Mr. Musk has shared his vision for the Second Chance program with me. But I'd like to hear your perspective. What made the difference for you?" Mike thought carefully before answering. "Being seen," he said finally, "not just as a homeless person, not just as an engineer, but as a human being with potential." The wallet test. He glanced at Elon, who nodded encouragingly. "It wasn't really about honesty, it was about dignity." "Explain," the mayor requested. "When you're homeless, people assume you're either trying to steal from them or begging for handouts. That wallet, it gave me a chance to show who I really am. Not who circumstances forced me to be." Elon tapped his tablet. "Show him the numbers, Sarah." Sarah, who had been quietly taking notes, projected a series of statistics onto the wall. "Based on our initial survey, there are over 300 people in Austin's shelters with technical backgrounds. Engineers, programmers, scientists, all sidelined by circumstances beyond their control." "And you want to hire them all?" the mayor asked skeptically. "Not all at once," Elon clarified, "and not all for Tesla. But imagine a program that connects these skilled individuals with companies across Austin. Proper vetting, support systems, temporary housing during the transition." "The cost would be significant," Mayor Rodriguez pointed out. "Less than you might think," Mike interjected. He stood and walked to the statistics display. "Look at what you're already spending on shelter services, emergency medical care, law enforcement. Now imagine converting those expenses into investments in human capital." The mayor studied him thoughtfully. "You sound like you've given this some thought." "I lived it," Mike said simply, "and I wasn't alone. The woman who helped me navigate the shelter system, former biochemist, the man who showed me where to get free Wi-Fi, software architect who lost everything in a divorce. Talent doesn't disappear with circumstance, it just goes dormant." Elon watched this exchange with growing satisfaction. This was exactly why he'd brought Mike into this meeting. He wasn't just a success story, he was a bridge between two worlds. "We're not just proposing a hiring program," Elon added. "We're talking about reclaiming lost potential. Mayor, imagine Austin becoming known not just for creating new technology, but for rediscovering hidden genius." Sarah's tablet pinged. "Sir, the preliminary survey results from St. Michael's Shelter just came in. 28 residents with advanced technical degrees. 15 with patents to their names." The mayor let out a low whistle. "That's just one shelter?" "One of 17 in central Austin," Sarah confirmed. Mike pulled up his phone and opened a document. "I've been keeping notes. Names, skills, circumstances. People who just need one chance, one opportunity to prove themselves." "Like you did with the wallet?" Mayor Rodriguez asked. "Everyone has their wallet moment," Mike replied. "The question is whether anyone's watching when it happens." Elon stood, walking to the window. The sun was setting over Austin, casting long shadows across the city. Somewhere out there, hundreds of brilliant minds were preparing for another night in shelters, under bridges, in cars. Mayor, he turned back to the room. I'm prepared to commit significant resources to this program, but we need the city's support. Housing vouchers, expedited licensing processes, transportation assistance. And in return? In return, Austin becomes a model for the nation, a place where talent isn't wasted, where circumstances don't define destiny. Elon gestured to Mike. Where a man reading technical papers outside a coffee shop can end up revolutionizing thermal management systems in a matter of days. The mayor looked at Mike for a long moment. The presentation you gave this morning, the one that's got the whole building talking, may I see it? Mike projected his presentation onto the wall, but this time with a different introduction slide. Second Chance Program, Technical Innovation Through Human Investment. As Mike began to explain his vision, not just for thermal management, but for rediscovering hidden talent, Elon watched the mayor's expression change from skepticism to interest to genuine excitement. Sarah slipped Elon a note. Engineering team already implementing his thermal management solutions. Projected efficiency gains now estimated at 23%. Elon smiled. The wallet test had revealed more than just one man's character. It had unlocked a door to something much bigger. Sometimes the most valuable discoveries weren't found in laboratories or on test tracks, but in the hidden potential of people who just needed someone to believe in them first. 3 months passed like a whirlwind. Mike's thermal management system had gone from concept to implementation, showing even better results than initially projected. But it wasn't just the technology that was transforming. Mike himself had undergone a remarkable change. Looking sharp, Elon commented one morning, finding Mike already in the lab at 6 a.m. The formerly homeless engineer now wore a well-fitted suit, his beard neatly trimmed, his posture confident, but he still arrived before dawn every day, still worked with the same hungry determination. Old habits. Mike smiled, not looking up from his calculations. Can't seem to shake the early morning schedule. Some habits are worth keeping. Elon pulled up a chair. Your trial period ended last week. Mike's hands stilled over his keyboard. I know. I was waiting for you to bring it up. And I kept working. What else would I do? Mike finally turned to face his boss. Unless you're here to tell me it didn't work out. Elon laughed. Actually, I'm here to show you something. Come with me. They took the elevator to the executive floor, where Sarah was waiting with a thick folder and a knowing smile. Your office is ready, she announced. My, what? Mike stopped short. Elon led him to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A nameplate on the door read, Michael Wilson, Director of Thermal Systems Innovation, Second Chance Program Development. I don't understand, Mike said quietly. The board met yesterday, Elon explained, settling into one of the office's comfortable chairs. They reviewed your performance, your innovations, and most importantly, the progress of the other second chance hires. Sarah handed Mike the folder. Inside were performance reviews, technical achievements, and success stories. James Chen, the former software architect from the shelter, now leading a UI development team. Dr. Maria Santos, the biochemist, revolutionizing battery composition analysis. Story after story of lives transformed. 27 hires in 3 months, Elon continued. Every single one exceeding expectations. The board wanted to know our secret. Mike looked up from the folder. Secret? How we're finding such exceptional talent that our competitors are missing. Elon smiled. I told them to ask the expert, which is why you're getting this office. I don't follow. We're expanding the program nationwide. Every Tesla facility, every city where we operate. We need someone who understands both sides, the technical expertise and the human element. Someone who's lived it. Sarah projected a presentation onto the wall. Phase 1 results. 27 hires, 94% retention rate, estimated 1,112 million in innovations and efficiency improvements. Phase 2 projections, 200 hires across 12 cities, potential economic impact in the hundreds of millions. Mike sank into his new chair, overwhelmed. When you left that wallet on the table 3 months ago. I was testing one man's character, Elon finished. Instead, I found a way to transform the company. He paused. Unless you're not interested in the position? Mike's answer was interrupted by a commotion outside. Dave, the security guard, was escorting a group of people into the outer office. The shelter residents are here for their interviews, Dave announced. Through the glass walls, Mike saw familiar faces from St. Michael's shelter, people he'd lived alongside just 3 months ago. They were dressed in borrowed suits and second-hand business attire, clutching folders with resumes, their faces showing the same mix of hope and fear he'd felt on his first day. "Well, Director Wilson," Elon raised an eyebrow, "your first official task is waiting." Mike stood, straightening his tie. "Sarah, can you pull up their technical backgrounds? And Dave, make sure they're comfortable. Get them some coffee, maybe some breakfast." "Already done," Sarah smiled. "And HR has the expedited paperwork ready, just like last time." Mike walked to the door, then paused. "Elon, no wallet test this time." "No need." Elon gestured to the group outside. "You're a better judge of character than any test I could devise. That's why you're here." As Mike opened the door to greet the candidates, he heard one of them whisper, "Is that really Mike, from the shelter?" "Welcome to Tesla," Mike announced to the group. 3 months ago, I was sitting where you are now. Today, we're going to talk about where you could be 3 months from now." The tension in the room visibly eased. These people didn't see a corporate executive. They saw living proof that second chances were real. From his position by the window, Elon watched as Mike began speaking with each candidate. The transformation wasn't just in his appearance or position. It was in the way he carried himself, the quiet confidence of someone who knew their true worth. Sarah appeared at his side with a tablet. "Sir, the press release about the program's expansion is ready for your approval." "Hold it," Elon decided. "Let's let the results speak for themselves. Sometimes the best stories don't need to be announced, they need to be discovered." Inside the conference room, Mike was reviewing a complex algorithm with a former software engineer who'd been living in his car for 6 months. "Your approach to machine learning optimization is fascinating," Mike was saying. "Have you considered applying it to our autonomous driving systems?" The candidate's eyes lit up with the spark of recognition, not of being handed something, but of being truly seen for his abilities. Elon's phone buzzed. The board wanted to know when the new hires would be ready to start. "Tell them to prepare for another revolution," he typed back. "But this time, it's not about technology, it's about humanity." Later that evening, as the sun set over Austin, Mike stood in his new office, looking out at the city. On his desk was a framed email, his original message to HR about his suspended license. Next to it sat Elon's wallet from that first test, now a symbolic reminder of where it all began. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. It was James, one of the shelter residents who'd interviewed that morning. "Sorry to bother you, Mr. Wilson, but I wanted to ask." James hesitated. "How did you do it? Keep going when everything was against you?" Mike picked up the framed email. "By remembering that our circumstances don't define us, our choices do." He smiled. "And please, call me Mike. We're all part of the same story now." As James left, Mike's phone buzzed with a message from Elon. "Dinner meeting tomorrow. Need your input on something bigger than Tesla." Mike replied, "Bigger than revolutionizing the automotive industry?" The response came quickly. "Bigger than any industry. We're not just changing how cars work, we're changing how society works, 1 second chance at a time." Mike looked at his reflection in the window, no longer a man on the street, but a bridge between 2 worlds. The wallet test had been just the beginning. The real transformation wasn't in the technology, or the title, or even the program itself. It was in the realization that sometimes the most powerful innovation isn't a new invention or discovery. Sometimes it's simply learning to see the potential that was there all along, waiting for someone to believe in it first. Outside his office, the candidates from the shelter were leaving, walking taller than when they'd arrived. Tomorrow, some of them would start their own transformations. The cycle would continue, rippling outward, changing lives and minds and industries. Mike touched the wallet on his desk one last time, then turned to his computer. He had work to do. The next chapter was just beginning.